Welcome guys to another episode of WWE 2K17 Universe Mode. My name is Kaisah Wrestling and we're coming to you with today's NXT as we're going to go through the fallout of NXT Takeover in London and find out who won who. And we're going to call up with Magnus. It was one hell of a battle at NXT Takeover in London, but Magnus was not able to get the job done in his hometown. And honestly, Magnus is feeling pretty embarrassed right now. As you can see the intensity in his face as Bobby Roode literally embarrassed Magnus. After the match, Roode came out and bluntly just attacked Magnus and drove him through a table. That Impaler DD3 right through the table. And Magnus did not even know that Roode was going to come out and attack him after that match with Samoa Joe. So, I'm sure Magnus is feeling a lot of emotions right now. He's definitely have a lot on his head. But maybe a future champion shot against Samoa Joe may be in the horizon for Magnus, but after that brutal domination of Magnus at Takeover, it's going to be a while before we see Magnus in the title picture. But I think most of all, he's probably going to want to address the glorious one, Bobby Roode. So what is Magnus going to have to say to the NXT Universe following that attack from the glorious one? Now, if anybody knows me, you know that I'm not one to complain. And I'm not out here complaining about me losing to Samoa Joe just a couple of days ago at NXT TakeOver. Because you know what? Like him or not, Samoa Joe is a very talented champion. He beat me fair and square in the middle of this ring. And there is nothing that I could say or do to change that. He was the better man that night, this past Sunday. But what I do want to address is the attack I got from Bobby Roode after my match. Because like the coward that he is, he couldn't come to me to my face and tell me that he wanted a challenge. Instead, he had to go behind my back and attack me after I had a brutal championship match against the Samoan submission machine. And just because of that, he thinks he's the biggest man in the locker room just because he put me through the announcement table. Well, I got some news for you, Bobby Roode. I'm not going to stay down for that, and I'm not going to take your crap anymore. So you know what? I'm calling you right now. Why don't you get your ass out right now and get this ass whooping that you deserve? Well, that right there is not Bobby Roode, but that is the new or the temporary general manager of NXT, Mr. McMahon. And he has a big smile on his face. That's because Mr. McMahon is loving what he saw this past Sunday at NXT TakeOver. That NXT Championship match between Magnus and Samoa Joe was absolutely phenomenal. And you couldn't ask for a better match, but just like Magnus said, he could not get the job done. So therefore, he's calling out Bobby Roode to make him pay for his sins. Now, Magnus, I know that out of everybody in that locker room, you are the most hated because you want your revenge on Bobby Roode, and I understand that, but I cannot have you running rapid on my show, and I can't have you threatening anybody. So you know what? I have a solution that will make everybody in this arena and you and me happy at the same time. With all due respect, Mr. McMahon, I respect you, and I respect your career, and I respect your decisions at all costs. But listen, I want Bobby Roode tonight, and I know that you can't give him to me right now, but I'm telling you, I want him sometime tonight because he needs to pay for what he did to me at TakeOver. Because he literally made me look like a fool and embarrassed me in front of the whole entire crowd. So I want to smash his face in at any given cost. Well, Magnus, I got some good news and I got some bad news for you at the same time. Because unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to give you Bobby Roode in a one-on-one match tonight. But I will give him to you one-on-one at NXT TakeOver Dallas. But as for tonight, you're going to be in a tag team match teaming up with Bobby Lashley, the new #1 contender, to face the team of Samoa Joe and Bobby Roode. You know what, Mr. McMahon? I could deal with that. because I just want to get my hands on that son of a gun tonight, because he needs to realize how it is to be embarrassed in front of a crowd of people and how it is to take advantage of somebody when they're down. So when I get Bobby Roode down tonight in our tag team match, I'm not going to allow him to get back up, because I'm going to beat him so bad that he's not even going to be able to make it to Dallas, and I'm going to make that a monumental announcement from Mr. McMahon. Huge main event and huge match scheduled for NXT TakeOver Dallas. But look at this. James Storm is somehow walking into the ring right now after getting that horrible beatdown from Kane. And I wonder what James Storm has to say right now. You people are absolute hypocrites. First, when I came here to NXT, you guys cheered me on. You guys were like, "Oh, James Storm, I'm so glad that you're here on NXT." Well, that's a load of garbage, because after this past Sunday, I realized what's really on your guys' mind, and it has nothing to do with me or my well-being. Because when that big red monstrosity came down to this ring and destroyed me, all you people did was cheer him on and told him to keep going. Well, you know what? I'm sick and tired of the disrespect that I get here on NXT. And if Vince McMahon is really gonna play me like that, I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench into his plans, because I'm going to be making another open challenge right here tonight on NXT. And don't even try it, Vince. I know exactly what you're going to do. You're going to try to throw maybe Kane, maybe Undertaker, maybe Goldberg even. But that's not going to happen, because I'm throwing an open challenge to any NXT superstar back there in the locker room to prevent you from giving me any surprises. So you know what, Mr. McMahon? Throw me your best shot. I challenge any NXT superstar in the locker room who wants a piece of James Storm. So if you want to face me tonight, come out here and take this ass whooping. Well, James Storm making another open challenge. I don't know how smart that is. And wait a minute. Who's coming right now? We heard this theme before in NXT TakeOver. Oh my God, I think James Storm is in a world of trouble, as look who it is, EC3, answering the challenge of the Cowboy James Storm. And this right here may be some serious bad news for James Storm, as I don't think he was planning on facing the newest member of the NXT roster in EC3. James Storm is in a world of trouble as EC3 looks ready to tear up his opponent tonight. EC3 making his debut at NXT TakeOver in London in the NXT Showcase match against Hiroshi Tanahashi. And wow, this man very impressive, earning his NXT contract. And now James Storm may have to deal with EC3, as the crowd was going crazy for this man, and now James Storm is going to have to face the wrath of EC3, trying to make a name for himself here on NXT. As we said, former TNA World Heavyweight Champion, having a huge career. He was here in NXT before, but now EC3 is back, and he's here to make an impact. So now it's EC3 answering the open challenge of James Storm. I hope Storm is ready for this. It's now, here we go, EC3 versus Storm. It's now, these open challenges from James Storm has definitely made him a little bit of a popular man here on NXT, but he has been taking some beatings from everybody. Remember, at TakeOver London, it was Kane who answered the challenge of James Storm. But don't get me wrong, James Storm, very talented. He definitely brought the fight to Kane, but I don't know if he's going to be able to do it to EC3 tonight. It's now Storm getting tossed outside the ring by EC3, and there goes one hell of a shoulder tackle, taking James Storm right to the outside, and now EC3 trying to get the whole crowd pumped behind him. As the match between EC3 and Hiroshi Tanahashi was pretty historical in my point of view. There goes a sit-down powerbomb. Those two men did not have an NXT contract, and they did everything they had to try to get that contract here. And there goes a clothesline by Storm, leveling down EC3. As we got to talk to EC3 right after his match with Hiroshi Tanahashi, and he said that he is here at NXT to win gold. He wants to be the NXT World Heavyweight Champion at one point of his career. And I think EC3 is going to go for it. There goes a power slam to Storm. And now there goes a cover by Ethan Carter III. Ever since getting his contract after defeating Hiroshi Tanahashi, EC3 has been running on an agenda. He's just been trying to get high-profile matches. And I mean, I wouldn't consider facing James Storm a high-profile match, but it is definitely going to get you some eyes in the back. There goes a sit-down powerbomb again by 3. And now James Storm kicking out of that. James Storm, man, he was saying that he's been on the raw end of the deal as far as Mr. McMahon goes, as he's been having to get thrown in all of these matches because he's making open challenges. But James Storm cannot blame Mr. McMahon, as Mr. McMahon is only getting the competition that is suitable for the Cowboys. There goes a neck breaker there to EC3, as now James Storm starting to fight back. EC3 came out here knowing that this was not going to be an easy challenge, but he is not going to let Storm just talk crap. If he has a chance, he's going to take advantage. And there goes an attempted DDT by 3. And now James Storm going for the cover into the bridge, and a kick out by EC3. As now, we were all trying to speak about what would Samoa Joe's reaction be of EC3. And Samoa Joe does not really seem that impressed, guys. I mean, after getting a huge victory over Magnus, who also came from the TNA locker room, Samoa Joe is not really impressed with anybody coming from Impact Wrestling. So, and that's kind of ironic coming from Samoa Joe, knowing that he came from Impact Wrestling himself. So EC3 may have a lot of things to prove. And there goes a stunner. The throat of James Storm just hitting the ropes. This is actually surprisingly a pretty good matchup. EC3, though, being very dominant over Storm, but James Storm is definitely holding his own, as now EC3 tossing Storm into the apron. Now James Storm may lose this match by countout. Now EC3 showboating for the crowd. The people love this man. Everybody wanted Ethan Carter III to be a member of the NXT locker room, and he is now. EC3 is here, so everybody got what they wanted. Is now Storm back in the ring, swinging with rights and lefts. Now EC3 able to counter that. Is now, oh God, there was a move by Storm, putting down EC3. Is now wrapping the legs, going for the sharpshooter. And now James Storm with a huge sharpshooter on EC3. This could be bad, but Ethan Carter quickly getting out of there. Is now kicking Storm off with those ginormous legs. And now James Storm is countering. James Storm really wants to make a name for himself here on NXT, and he knows he's going to have to try super hard. And there goes another sit-down powerbomb by EC3. Jesus Christ. As now, oh God, what does EC3 have planned here? Is now, look at this. Oh God, headlock driver. We saw that to Hiroshi Tanahashi, and that right there may be the end for James Storm. Is now the open challenge of James Storm once again being thwarted. But no, Storm kicks out. And this is one thing about these James Storm open challenges. We would expect them to be a squash match, but it is not. James Storm is delivering one hell of a fight, just like he delivered that fight to Kane. But now, oh man, we saw James Storm almost hit that last call super kick on the Big Red Monster. And there goes a clothesline, beheading James Storm. Is now EC3 with some clubbing blows. And that last shot busting open James Storm. Things are not looking good right now for James Storm. He may be packing up to go back to the locker room, but Storm now fighting back. Is now, look at this, DDT right onto EC3. Very good match. Both of these two superstars were members of the NXT locker room at one point of their career. And you have to love the action that they're putting on for us tonight on NXT. There goes a shot to the face of the Cowboy. And what a drop kick by EC3. Oh my God. That was absolutely dominant. EC3 always showcasing his strength. But now there goes another counter by James Storm. James Storm is not holding back. He is giving EC3 a fight of his life here. And now, what does James Storm have planned? Grabbing EC3, and now, uh-oh. Oh my God. James Storm now is EC3 in a world of trouble. James Storm looks like he's about to run, and there goes. Oh my God! Both boots to the side of the head of EC3. Well, talking about an open challenge, James Storm looking very good in this match. And oh no, EC3! EC3 now getting the crowd behind him, taking out James Storm. As now EC3 gaining all the momentum in the world, taking Storm down for that short time. Is now, oh look at this, some kicks to the gut by Ethan Carter III. Is now, look at this, as he's about to pick up Storm and drops him down. Look at that single arm power bomb by EC3. Will this be enough to put Storm away tonight on NXT? There goes a kick out by the Cowboy. As you have to love the motivation of James Storm to win this match. As like every single time we see Storm in the ring, it's almost desperate measures for the Cowboy. But now look at this, is now putting EC3 into the corner, now showboating off the crowd. But look at EC3 countering that. And now, oh no, it's James Storm now coming off the ropes. Is now, look at this, the Cowboy about to gain some momentum. Oh, twisting power bomb. Is now, look at this, James Storm. Oh, look at that. I think he was going to go for maybe an Impaler DDT, and now EC3 with the wherewithal to counter that. Is now, now EC3 is in position. We saw this before in the match, not able to get the job done though. And now look at that, Storm able to counter that headlock driver. Is now, oh my God, EC3 gets tossed over the rope. This is a very good match on NXT so far. As EC3 now trying to collect himself on the outside. EC3 may still also be recovering from his match with Hiroshi Tanahashi a couple of nights ago at the Takeover pay-per-view. Is now James Storm just waiting for EC3 to get in the ring. I mean, even if Storm loses this match, if I was Mr. McMahon, I'll be paying very close attention to what's going on right now. There was a kick to the side of the head. EC3 in a world of trouble. But now look at that. Storm now running after 3. And oh, there goes another clothesline. Dropping down the Cowboy James Storm. Is now, what does EC3 have planned here? And there goes the STL. EC3. Now look at this. We barely ever see Ethan Carter III go up to the top rope, but he's going right now. As now, oh wow, I thought he was gonna go for the headbutt, moving out of the way of that stomp. And now there goes the jawbreaker. What a good match here on NXT. EC3 needs to do his best to get the cover on James Storm though. He cannot afford for this match to go any longer. As now look at this, as Storm has him up. Alabama Slammer. EC3 goes down. It's now James Storm. It's James Storm tuning up the band. Is now EC3 maybe getting all of this. The last call super kick. Oh! The last call super kick dodged. And there goes a chop by EC3. And there goes a splash into the corner. Is now EC3 getting the whole crowd behind him, dodging the last call. Oh no, James Storm in a world of trouble. Headlock driver by Ethan Carter III. Thank you for coming, James Storm. But this second open challenge that you said is not going to be a successful one. EC3 picking up the victory tonight on NXT. What a huge victory for Ethan Carter III. As look at that power slam earlier on from EC3. You have to give James Storm a lot of credit though. He was looking very good in this match. But EC3 just too much. 3 sit-down power bombs it took to beat James Storm. But look at this. The headlock driver before was not able to get it done. It was the second one that EC3 was able to get the pinfall. Not an easy match at all for Ethan Carter III. But nonetheless, he did get the victory. There goes that running drop kick there. And that headlock driver right in the center of the ring, ending James Storm's open challenge today. As EC3 may be the new biggest man here on NXT. As EC3. And wait a minute, that's the greatest man who ever lived. That's Austin Aries. Austin Aries. Oh my God. Austin Aries is here. I don't know what he's doing. He's just attacking EC3. Well, I guess Austin Aries is not a man that's here for newcomers. He's definitely trying to teach the new man a lesson. Is now Austin Aries. Oh God, and EC3 able to dodge. Ethan Carter III not staying down, but Austin Aries just not holding back, as now Aries just attacking EC3, and EC3 going outside the ring. But now look at this. EC3 is just fighting back. Austin Aries may be in trouble, but the greatest man that's ever lived is not holding up at all. There goes, oh my God, double arm underhook German suplex by Austin Aries. And he may have just destroyed EC3. And he's not done yet. Look at this. The greatest man that's ever lived. Maybe going for that brain buster. But oh, look at that. EC3 dodging. As now he grabs Aries. Headlock driver onto Austin Aries, and EC3 getting the one-up on the greatest man that ever lived today on NXT. It is time for our main event here tonight on NXT, and we already have two huge matches scheduled for NXT Takeover in Dallas, as we have the NXT Championship will be on the line between Lashley and Samoa Joe, because Lashley was the winner of that TLC match at NXT Takeover in London, defeating Shinsuke Nakamura, Bobby Roode, and Elias Sampson. So that right there is the man Magnus, as he was very vocal in the beginning of this show, pretty much calling out Bobby Roode, saying that he wants him right now. He wants to get an opportunity to just beat the daylights out of Bobby Roode, and he's going to get that opportunity in a couple of weeks, in 4 weeks time, at NXT TakeOver in Dallas, as those two men are going to be going one-on-one via Vince McMahon earlier on tonight. So much more to come your way, as next week on NXT we're going to have two huge #1 contenders matches, as Billie Kay is going to be going one-on-one with Mickie James after the words that she was saying to Mickie James after what happened at the NXT TakeOver London pay-per-view. But hold that thought. Here comes the #1 contender for the NXT Championship. That is the boss, that is the destroyer, Bobby Lashley. As Lashley was very, very dominant in that match, that TLC match at NXT TakeOver in London. And I think he rightfully deserves this NXT Championship shot, because Bobby Lashley actually got screwed a couple of weeks ago on NXT in a match against Magnus. He grabbed the bottom rope, but the referee did not see it. So I think it's only right if Lashley gets this opportunity. So that right there, your new #1 contender. He's going to be teaming up with Magnus to go 2-on-2 with Samoa Joe and Bobby Roode. And this entrance alone should spike maybe a little bit of hairs on Magnus's body, as the NXT champion Samoa Joe putting on a clinic at NXT TakeOver in London. This man has been so impressive over the last couple of weeks in general. And I say last couple of weeks because we didn't really see much of Samoa Joe leading into NXT TakeOver, but that last week of TakeOver, including the match against TJ Perkins and the match against Magnus at London, it was just straight dominance from Samoa Joe. And from what I've seen, it's going to take a man like Lashley to have the strength to face Samoa Joe, because our NXT champion is just as dominant as it gets. So now Joe teaming up with the glorious Bobby Roode today, and you saw Samoa Joe stare some daggers into Bobby Lashley's eyes, showing him that it's not going to be an easy feat to defeat the Samoan submission machine in Dallas. But honestly, if anybody could defeat Samoa Joe, I really think it is Bobby Lashley, because Bobby Lashley has the perfect combination of strength and speed. As right now we're waiting on Bobby Roode, as you see the three competitors. The glorious superstar has not really had the best of luck over the last couple of weeks on NXT. In London, it looked like Bobby Roode was actually going to grab the briefcase a couple of times in that match, but it just didn't happen. But the huge highlight of Bobby Roode's NXT TakeOver London night was when he came out after the NXT Championship match and absolutely just destroyed Magnus, as he grabbed Magnus and impaler DDT'd him right through the announcer's table in London. And that is exactly why Magnus wants Bobby Roode. And I'm pretty sure Bobby Roode is not so happy that Vince McMahon kind of volunteered Roode to face off against Magnus at NXT TakeOver in Dallas. But what do you expect? This man literally gets away with everything. But this is going to be the first time that Bobby Roode may just not get away with something as easily. As we knew that Roode had a lot of issues with Magnus, he came out in that match between Magnus and Lashley when the NXT Championship tournament was still going on. So Roode definitely has some scores to settle with Magnus, but right now we're going to have a short little rematch of what we saw in London, as it's going to be Magnus starting out with Samoa Joe, and there goes a DDT already from Magnus. As Magnus is absolutely livid right now. As, like he said, Samoa Joe is the better champion. He said that Samoa Joe won the match fair and square, and it's true. Samoa Joe did defeat Magnus, but to be honest with you, the attack after the match is what angered Magnus, and he said it really wasn't necessary. And you can't really argue with Magnus because Bobby Roode had no reason to be outside. I mean, he was already in a match. He was in a TLC match against Samson, Nakamura, and Lashley. He lost his opportunity to go against Samoa Joe at Takeover Dallas, but he just came out and destroyed the at-time #1 contender Magnus, and it just was not cool. As Samoa Joe with a flying dropkick, as we don't really see Joe go to the air that much. As now here goes the glorious superstar, who is probably not really trying to face off against Magnus, as Magnus just grabbing Roode, and there goes a neck breaker. And Magnus, even though he wants Bobby Roode, he tags in Lashley because he knows that he cannot afford any injuries going into this match against Roode. So now Lashley grabbing Bobby Roode, and there goes a German suplex, and I think Lashley going for the trifecta. We normally see this from Brock Lesnar, but Bobby Lashley, Suplex City is definitely apparent when he's in that ring, and Roode just getting tossed all over the place. So NXT TakeOver Dallas is already panning out to be a pretty darn good pay-per-view. I mean, we have Lashley versus Samoa Joe, we're going to have Roode versus Magnus, and then we're supposed to be hearing from Shinsuke Nakamura next week regarding Elias Sampson. I wonder what Shinsuke Nakamura has to say to Elias Sampson, but we're going to find that out next week. And we also have two #1 contenders matches going on next week. TM61 versus DIY. The winner of that match will be facing Dash and Dawson at the NXT TakeOver Dallas pay-per-view for the NXT Tag Team Championships. And then also we have Billie Kay going one-on-one with Mickie James. The winner of that match has Asuka in Dallas. And how dominant was Asuka? Asuka was very, very intimidating in that match. It was a triple threat match featuring those three women, Billie Kay, Mickie James, and Asuka. And at the end of the day, Asuka was just able to get the victory with those buzzsaw kicks. I believe she pinned Billie Kay. My memory doesn't really serve me correctly, but either way, Asuka was just on fire that night. As now here goes a preview of Dallas, as Samoa Joe was in there with Lashley for a short time, making the tag to Bobby Roode, and there was a boot right to the face. One thing about Bobby Roode is that he has a lot of tag team experience. I mean, a while ago on TNA, Bobby Roode was in a tag team with none other than James Storm, which is kind of ironic because you see Bobby Roode is now in the main event scene, and you have James Storm just getting demolished by EC3 earlier on. And that's another thing that we have to talk about. Like, what was up with Austin Aries coming out after the match with EC3 and James Storm? I mean, Austin Aries didn't really have anything to do with anything going into TakeOver. I mean, he was in one match, which was, well, he was in a couple of matches for the NXT Championship tournament. He did lose in the second round to Bobby Lashley. Now Lashley grabbing Samoa Joe. Lashley would have nothing more than to make an impact tonight and show Samoa Joe that he means business, but he just makes the tag to Magnus. As both of these superstars realize the dangers of facing their opponents right now on NXT. Because one thing about Bobby Roode is that he may be slick, but he is very dominant as well. As he drove Magnus through that table with that Impaler DDT. It's a miracle that Magnus is even competing tonight, but we know the resiliency of Brutus Magnus, as he was the winner of that NXT Championship tournament, defeating Elias Sampson in a steel cage. And now going back to this match, Roode gets the tag, as now Magnus is facing off with his rival. Bobby Roode is in the ring. Magnus is running against the ropes, and there goes a nice elbow to the face. Bobby Lashley chomping at the bit at his corner. Roode is now on the top turnbuckle. What does he have in store for Magnus right now? It's now Samoa Joe completely trusts his Bobby Roode. There goes a flying drop kick off the top rope. Roode and Samoa Joe have been looking very good in this match. They've been isolating their opponent absolutely phenomenally. As now there goes a attempted neckbreaker by Magnus, but Bobby Roode sees it coming this time. He got hit by that in the beginning of the match, but he's saying not today. And look at that. Oh my God. Snap mirror by Roode, just taking Magnus face first into the mat. And we've been seeing a lot of tags between Joe and Roode as they've been trying their best to isolate Magnus. Bobby Lashley has really yet to feel the brunt of this attack. It's been Joe and Roode on Magnus this whole time. And now look at this, Joe picking up Magnus, and that right there is that inverted suplex. Magnus knows how dominant Samoa Joe is. As literally when Magnus was speaking in the beginning of the show, he pretty much sounded a little bit humbled by the Samoan submission machine, as he didn't really know what to expect. And look at that boot from Bobby Roode. That tag team work between Joe and Roode has been on fire today. But now look at this. Magnus able to take down Roode with a snapmare. And now look at that. Roode is just on top of Magnus. But picking up Magnus. And oh my God, modified Falcon Arrow. Just dropping Magnus on the back of his head. And oh my God, I think that last shot busted open Magnus, and I'm right. Magnus is bleeding. We saw James Storm bleed a little bit earlier tonight, as this episode of NXT very, very bloody. It's now the spine buster by Roode. This may be the end of the match. It's now Bobby Lashley needs to get in there to break up the cover. It's now Samoa Joe catching the #1 contender before he was able to break up the pin. But Magnus was able to kick out of that. Bobby Roode and Samoa Joe have been very impressive in this match. Magnus is in a world of trouble, as now Roode was attempting for that Impaler DDT. But Bobby Roode now shrugging off the attack. And look at that. Oh my God, exploder suplex, drop at Magnus on his back. And what is Bobby Lashley doing? He's running in that ring. Now he's going on the top turnbuckle while Magnus is getting beaten up. And now Lashley was trying to fly at Roode, but that did not go Lashley's way. And now there goes another exploder by Roode, as Magnus is just taking a complete beatdown. Bobby Lashley is not even in the right corner. He needs to get in this match. Bobby Lashley definitely needs to tag, as Magnus has been taking a horrible beatdown. And now there goes a cover by the NXT champion Samoa Joe. A kick out there. It's Lashley. That last kick actually caught the back of the champion. I mean, that may slow Samoa Joe down for a little bit, but it's not really going to get too much impact in. As now Joe quickly makes the tag to Roode. And these two men have been looking like a pretty well-oiled tag team, as Roode and Joe just destroying Magnus right now. But Magnus able to counter that. There goes an elbow to the back of the shoulder. Magnus now just swinging at the heels. He's trying to get something in. And look at that. Oh my God, that brainbuster is turning Bobby Roode inside out. The legs just hanging all over the ropes. Bobby Roode is hurt right now. He's crawling over to Samoa Joe to try to make a tag. But now Magnus sees that happen, and he's not going to allow it today. But Magnus allowing Joe to get the tag. Like, I don't see Magnus's game plan following through today, as he's just getting hurt. And now look at this, Magnus kicking Samoa Joe. And what is Magnus playing? There goes crossbody. This may be his chance to tag in Lashley, but instead Magnus just continues to go for the attack. Magnus is bloodthirsty, but he's right now tasting his own blood, because the blood is streaming down his forehead. Magnus needs to make that tag to Bobby Lashley. Is now, oh man, Magnus was looking for that back suplex STO, but it's not going to happen today. And there goes Uranagi Slam by the NXT champion Samoa Joe, and Bobby Roode putting on one hell of a clinic tonight. So now Lashley just trying to cheer on Magnus. He's trying to keep Magnus in this match, but he's just getting destroyed by the team of Roode and Joe. There goes a kick to the leg of Samoa Joe. And there goes a clothesline, flooring the champion for a short time. And what is Magnus doing? Bobby Roode is in pursuit of Magnus, but now look at this. Magnus wants Joe back to his feet. And look at Bobby Roode taking advantage. And now Roode just tossing Magnus on the floor. Come on, Magnus. You have to think, was Bobby Roode really going to let you go through with that plan? Now look at this, as both the Bobbies just destroying each other on the other side of the ring, but Roode and Lashley going back to the outside. As now Magnus is trying to collect himself in the ring, but Samoa Joe is just tearing Magnus apart. The crowd trying to cheer on for Magnus as they're booing Samoa Joe for continuing this beatdown. And look at this, another jawbreaker creating some separation. Magnus sees something big, and there goes a power slam by the NXT champion, followed by a huge senton, the almost 300-pound NXT champion, right onto the chest of Magnus. As Magnus thought that he was over with Joe at NXT Takeover, but Mr. McMahon putting Magnus in this match, this tag team match, and honestly, this is not looking good at all for Brutus Magnus. Bobby Lashley needs to get in this match because Magnus is not looking good. There goes an enziguri by Samoa Joe, and that would knock any normal man out. Bobby Roode is looking in absolute satisfaction. He loves what's going on right now. Samoa Joe is absolutely softening up Magnus. Magnus now just taking an elbow straight to the leg. Magnus is barely able to counter anything. He's just dead weight in the ring right now. Samoa Joe is dominating him. And look at this, a snap suplex there by the NXT champion. And now Magnus is, I think his foot was on the rope right there. That's not going to get the job done. Now Samoa Joe picking up Magnus. Where is he throwing him to? And this is not good news. As now look at this, Samoa Joe. Oh my God, I think he was going for that elbow into the kick. We saw that take out Magnus at NXT Takeover, but now Magnus is fighting back. There goes a shot to the face, picking up Samoa Joe. Michinoku driver there by Magnus, going for the cover now. The NXT champion may be in trouble here, but now Bobby Roode able to make the save. And now look at this, exploder suplex, dropping Magnus, and now both men are down. Bobby Lashley not even really getting involved. Magnus is trying to stir back to his feet. That last Michinoku driver really hurt Samoa Joe. He's not really moving. But now the NXT champion finally stirring to his feet. And now there goes a shot to the back of the head. And now what does Samoa Joe have planned here? Pseudo suplex there, dropping Magnus on the back of his head. And now Samoa Joe just cheering for himself. What a great main event we have here on NXT, but I don't think Magnus is going to get the job done if he remains in that ring. He really needs to tag in Lashley, and here comes the Destroyer, the #1 contender, finally getting the tag, and now he's going after the NXT champion. Bobby Lashley now. Samoa Joe is in the corner. What does he have planned? Is now Lashley tossing him, and here goes German suplex, and that right there is the power of the Destroyer. Bobby Lashley has so much power. This is why he's a former MMA welterweight champion, former TNA World Heavyweight champion, former US and ECW champion. It's now almost getting the count on the NXT champion. That'll be great momentum for Lashley if he's able to pin Samoa Joe in the middle of the ring in this tag team match. And now, now Samoa Joe grabbing Lashley, but Lashley with that jawbreaker. Look at this. Oh my God. Look at this. Oh, running power slam. Bobby Lashley just power slammed the NXT champion. And now, oh man, Samoa Joe raking the eyes. And that's all it took. But now Lashley able to counter back. Back suplex there. Bobby Roode is looking at Samoa Joe. He's in absolute trouble right now. I've not seen the NXT champion take this much of a beating in a long time. And now look at this. STO by Joe. Dropping Lashley on the back of his head. And now Bobby Roode wants back in this match. There goes a tag to the glorious Bobby Roode. As now a cover there by Roode as Magnus sees that Lashley's in trouble. But Bobby Lashley kicks out at 2.5. If I was Magnus, I would chill out on the apron and rest for the rest of this match. Let Bobby Lashley run things here. As now Bobby Roode just tossing Lashley into the turnbuckle. Oh man, Lashley's in a really bad position right now. This main event is now he had Lashley in that trio woe, but Bobby Lashley seeing it coming, kneeing Roode in the head, and now Roode, oh my God, that neck breaker, driving the knee into the back of the neck. Bobby Roode, oh no, grabbing Bobby Lashley, and there goes that fisherman suplex, that perfect plex-like move as Bobby Roode almost getting the victory on Lashley. Magnus not even seeing Lashley in trouble. Roode and Joe have been so impressive in this match. I mean, kudos to Lashley and Magnus for hanging on, but oh, look at this. Bobby Lashley now has his headlock locked in on Roode. Roode is in trouble, but Roode with that knee to the back of the head. And I mean, Bobby Lashley doesn't really have a lot of hair to cushion his fall. And look at this, oh my God, I think Bobby Lashley was going for a stalling suplex, but Roode able to counter. Oh, I thought he was going for that impaler DDT, and there goes that modified Falcon Arrow again, driving Lashley right on his back. And now, Roode now maybe looking for that impaler. Oh no, we saw this. The Magnus through the table, and now Bobby Lashley getting dropped right on his face. That right there is going to be it at the end of this match. Thank you for trying. But wait a minute. The Destroyer Lashley kicking out of the impaler, and Bobby Roode cannot believe it. He has no choice but to tag in Samoa Joe. And now here comes Joe. Joe now grabbing Bobby Lashley. What does he have planned here? And now, we saw this at TJ Perkins to finish him off on 205 Live a couple of weeks ago. Magnus still trying to collect himself on the rope, as here goes a trifecta into the straight jacket, German suplex. Bobby Lashley in a world of trouble. Will he kick out? And that is going to be the end. The NXT champion Samoa Joe and Bobby Roode with the victory today. Well, you have to give Magnus and Lashley a whole bunch of credit, because they tried their best to stick it out in this match, but at the end of the day, the team of Bobby Roode and Samoa Joe is too much for these superstars. As you have to like what you saw. Bobby Roode and Samoa Joe as a cohesive unit tonight, just to take out the #1 contender and Magnus. So Magnus suffering yet another loss, so close to his loss at Takeover London. This has not been a good 4 days for Magnus so far, as he's been dealing with Samoa Joe and Bobby Roode. But now we know that Magnus will have Bobby Roode in a one-on-one match at TakeOver Dallas. But is that what Magnus really wants? And Bobby Lashley getting pinned by Samoa Joe today. Hopefully this is not a sight for things to come at TakeOver in Dallas. But tonight on NXT, the glorious Bobby Roode and Samoa Joe, the NXT champion, are running things. So that right there is your episode of NXT. We're going to be coming to you next time with the last episode of SmackDown right before the Payback pay-per-view. Please like and subscribe to Kaisah Wrestling. We will see you in the near future.